Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Live from the Heartland. Once again, it's Michael James here in the 49th Ward, the very blue 49th Ward. And way back in my life, I met this wonderful guy named Floyd Webb. He is a filmmaker of some renown here in Chicago, and I'm looking forward to catching up with him. So, Floyd, given all that, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right for an old man.
You don't even know what old is yet. Just wait. Do you work out at all? Do you get any exercise?
I get, you know what, about twice. I get about 3 miles a day walking, 2 or 3 miles a day walking, and then on like Saturdays and Sundays, I'll go out and take an 8 or a 10-mile walk.
Oh, that's good. I need to do more walking. I do swimming and weight.
But I haven't been in the gym. But I got to get in the gym though. You got to get in the gym.
They're wonderful. I think all of us old guys really got to do it.
Oh yeah. My son's maternal grandfather is 94. He's in the gym like every day. Every day.
Well, one of the things that I kind of missed having you on before the Blacklight Film Festival or the Black Harvest Film Festival.
Yeah.
There's a lot of film festivals to keep track of these days, but you're going to fill us in on that maybe. But how about you give us a little bit of an overview about what went on at the Black Harvest Film Festival, how it went, your thoughts, how people can see, you know, that kind of thing. But
I wasn't
there about.
Well, I wasn't really there for the whole festival. This is the 50th anniversary of Chicago filmmakers, and so I founded a film festival, Blacklight Film Festival, in 1982 at Chicago Filmmakers when they were on at 6 West Hubbard. And we went on for 12 years, and then Black Harvest came up after that. So, we wanted to do like a couple of Blacklight screenings, and so we're going to do two more. But the main screening I wanted to do was an Oscar Micheaux film, because one of the things we did when I was doing Blacklight is we helped find an Oscar Micheaux film called Within Our Gates that was made in 1920, and it was found in the Spanish Film Archive. And when the film was found, we presented it at the School of the Film of the Art Institute with Edward Wilkerson and his group 8 Bold Souls. So we did the first like live music track to a screening of an Oscar Micheaux film. You know, that film hadn't been shown here probably since 1921 because his films were always being censored because they were so radical, because they criticized preachers. It was really, I mean, he did some really, did some really socially conscious stuff that made a lot of people uncomfortable, especially Baptist preachers, you know. So I wanted to show this film. I got Ed Wilkerson again. He no longer has 8 Bold Souls because the 8 Bold Souls are now 8 Old Souls, right? You know, and so all the AACM guys, you know, the AACM big band, I call it the AARP big band now. So, but they know I do.
Tell people a little bit about just briefly about the AACM. So
the AACM is a musicians organization that was founded in the 1960s in order to promote original music, original, authentic Black creative music, not jazz. People, you know, they don't use the word jazz; they use creative music, or they call it great Black music, and bands like the Art Ensemble of Chicago, Henry Threadgill, and Air, Muhal Richard Abrams. I mean, all of these musicians came out of Chicago and became world-renowned. Anthony Braxton, Chico Freeman, all of these people went out and became like world-renowned, you know. And that organization had a free music school that I went to with Ed Wilkerson, and Ed Wilkerson was my composition teacher, and I got to know him through the AACM. You know, and so Ed was the person that I called. Ed was in my first film. He provided music for my first film. He was in my first film. And I asked him to do the music of that first Oscar Micheaux film. So when I decided to do this screening, I wanted to do Symbol of the Unconquered, a 1920 film, another film that Oscar Micheaux made, but he made it in Fort Lee, New Jersey, where he was sharing studio space he was in the same studio spaces as all of the big time Hollywood studios. You know, that's something I just found out because I was in Fort Lee walking down the street and there was an Oscar Micheaux star in front of the Barrymore Film Museum, and so we did this film because the question of Black land, acquisition and theft of Black land, 100 years later, is still an issue. And so the film is about a woman who goes down south to claim a piece of land that was left to her by her grandfather. And she runs into this guy who's half white, half Black, but he's passing as white. And when he finds out about this land she has, he treats her horribly. He gets with the Ku Klux Klan and they try to run her off the land. But she meets this other guy, this really upright, this nice, heroic guy, you know, this Dudley Do-Right kind of guy. Matter of fact, he looks like a Black Dudley Do-Right, you know. And
whatever that would be.
and they thwart the Klan, you know. So Oscar Micheaux was making films in opposition and to provide an alternative to films like Birth of a Nation, which most of those films back then, especially between 1910 and 1920, they were all films that kind of reflected this like stereotypical view, you know, of Black people, you know, like these images of Black people that had come out of had come out of Reconstruction, you know. Matter of fact, the early films of Edison, you know, Nigger in the Woodpile, the Chicken Thief, you know, Watermelon Patch, all of this. These were the films that Edison was doing, and Black filmmakers came along and challenged those images and found and they had a network, a distribution network. So we showed that film, and it was
what's the name of that film?
Symbol of the Unconquered, 1920. You can find it online. You can find it on YouTube, and we're going to present it on my streaming channel, Blackness.tv, with the music that Ed recorded, you know, and so that's what we did there, and the music was, so we had a trio, so it was electronic music, didgeridoo, saxophone, guitar, piano, you know. It was a very different kind of you know, like a lot of people use orchestras or they use, you know, they'll use quartets. So I wanted to do something different. I'm planning on doing a whole series of silent films, and I want to use like South Indian music. I want to use some music of the Mongolian music. Since we got a Mongolian band that's performing on Friday nights in Chicago all the time. I don't know if you've seen
I don't know about that.
Oh man, they are hot. They are hot. I'll send you some information about them. Yeah, they play at a bar on the north side here every Friday night, you know.
Let me ask you a couple things about I want to learn a little bit more about Oscar Micheaux, but I also my understanding was there a pretty strong Black film industry here in Chicago in the early days.
Oh yeah, yes it was.
St. Augustine's College is now, if it still exists, up in Uptown, I think was where it was located. But tell us about that, the early days of Black filmmaking, not only in the country, but Chicago.
Yeah, well, in Chicago, the very first Black film studio was by a guy named William Foster. William Foster was a sports writer for the Chicago Tribune. He was a promoter of vaudeville, and he was a railroad porter who distributed the Chicago Defender down south. He was, you know, he was one of the guys taking the papers down there and encouraging people to make the Great Migration to come work in the factories and to work in the stockyards here. And he set up at the Peking Theater down there by IIT or Armour Institute at the time, and he set up and he made about 10 or 15 films. He left Chicago, he went to LA. That was pretty much a bust, but he made a number of films. He was marginally successful, but it wasn't sustainable because he was a Black man trying to be successful in Jim Crow of America. And he had a lot of drive, but you know, Oscar Micheaux was the guy who came along and he figured stuff out. Oscar Micheaux would go state to state, city to city, go to theaters, show them pictures of what he was going to do, tell them about the film, get them excited, and then have them pay money up front. So they would pay the money up front. He would go to like, 50, 60 theaters and have them give him, $1,000 a piece or something, and he could make a film. They would get the film. They would get, and they would split the box office. The net of the box office after their money was returned. And he distributed his films internationally. And he was part of the first generation of Hollywood, which was Fort Lee, New Jersey. And he was really a leader in the Black film realm. But we had there was about 8 film studios within walking distance of my house. I live on 33rd and Prairie. There was about 8 studios in that area, starting at 29th Street down to like 43rd. Oscar Micheaux had an office on 34th and State Street. I've been working on an augmented reality project to recreate these places. Like you'll be able to take your phone, and when you get to the location, you hold your phone up and you'll be able to see Oscar Micheaux standing in the spot he would have been standing in back in 1925. And all of these studios, and I'm doing it in like 3 generations. First generations, it's just black and white, two-dimensional images, but the second generation, it'll be 3D images, 3D animated images, and the third generation will be you'll be able to talk to them and ask them questions.
And you're going to do all this out of that office you're sitting in?
I'm going to do all of it if I'm still, if I can keep making the rent, yep. So
let me ask you, I really like this idea of Micheaux going around to different theaters and getting money in advance for a movie he was going to produce and then distribute to those very theaters that gave him the moolah. I'm wondering if that's a technique that younger filmmakers might be able to use in some way.
Well, you think that would work, but it's like nobody trusts anybody. You know what I mean? Nobody trusts anybody. Oscar Micheaux was the ultimate. Well, who did stuff like that was Tyler Perry. That's how Tyler Perry started in Chitlin Circuit Theater. He used to be here every year at the Erie Crown Theater doing those church plays. That's how he made his money, was doing these plays at the Erie Crown Theater. And he did those in all over the country. And I'm sure he had churches, throwing in money so that they could share in the box office, So Tyler Perry was able to do that. Anybody who could, actually, anybody in the creative field could actually do it if you can find people that are willing to support your creative endeavor. I started a streaming channel in order to get people to subscribe to the channel for $3.99 a month, for $39 a year. And if I can get 100,000 people in the next 5 years, to pay $3.99, I'm not going to change it. I'm going to keep it at $3.99. Right? If I can get 100,000 people, that's $300,000 a month, and I can buy content and I can produce work. I can bring in new filmmakers and stuff.
I like it. Well, you let me know and I'll chip in.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do the channel's been up about 5 years, but I just haven't done a launch or anything because I was so busy keeping the channel open.
You want to tell people how they get to it?
Yeah, blacknuss.tv, BLACKNUSS.tv, like the Roland Kirk song.
One more time, Black
Nuss, BLACKNUSS, Blacknuss. Yeah, just look up Roland Kirk Blacknuss, and then you'll remember. Once you hear the song, you'll never forget it.
Speaking of Roland Kirk, with the Stritch, the Mandela, the saxophone.
Yeah.
I went to the Sutherland Lounge, which used to be down there on the South Side. And I was young. It was in the early 60s. And I just was blown away by Roland.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll use some Roland Kirk with the music around this interview.
Yeah. Well, Roland Kirk was one of my flute teachers. I used to go down to the jazz.
Oh, wow.
I used to go down to the jazz showcase and go backstage and and mess around with him. And when I was in London, he would come to Ronnie Scott's, and I'd go down there and chase him down. Hey man, time for another flute lesson. you know.
Well, Floyd, let me go back to the film festival. So the Black Light was the thing you created. It went
In
on for 12
1982.
years. And
Yeah,
what I've got here is a return to Black Harvest. So
right.
what did you do this year with at Black Harvest? And is there
All I
anything
did was
to share
the
about?
Oscar Micheaux film. Oscar
Okay.
Micheaux, the live music for silent film. That's all I did. And we talked about the film afterwards. We talked about the music.
Yeah.
I gave a little.
Were there any other films there that you remember or saw that you want to
You
tell us
know, I'm working on a film, so I came back, and I have to, in the evenings I have to come back and look over this footage, and I'm working on the special effects and stuff, and then I got another project we're shooting in Japan at the same time, you know, and the Count Dante thing is, you know, I have to do research.
the Count Dante? I want to hear more about that because both you and my cousin Adam James, who usually comes on and talks sports and his own film that he's involved with, he's the guy that turned me on to Count Dante, and then you tell the people about it. It's worth hearing.
Okay, Count Dante was a martial artist in Chicago. He started out as a boxer. He was a rich Irish kid from Beverly. He went to Mount Carmel High School. His dad was one of the founders of Ashland Bank out in Beverly. His dad was one of the most popular OB-GYNs in the city. He delivered everybody's baby on the South Side, Beverly area. Anyway, he was a rich kid. He got involved in boxing. He went away to the military, got involved in martial arts. He came back here and decided to open a school. And the funny part was, back in the 1950s, if you wanted to study martial arts, you had to be white because the police didn't want Hispanic people or Black people learning martial arts. So you couldn't go to a traditional martial arts school. So you couldn't just go into the Jiu-Jitsu Institute and get judo lessons unless you were in Mas Tamura's Underground Railroad martial arts class. It took place after 10 o'clock at night after all the white people left, you know? And this is true stuff, right? So like, you know, like martial arts in Chicago was really at a high level because Chicago was the only city that would take Japanese internees after World War II. So you had all the Japanese internees come here and they set up on Belmont, set up on 39th Street. You had a lot of people who taught judo and who taught kendo. They were doing classes at the different YMCA's, like Lawson YMCA had like judo classes and all those guys, and the Aikido guys, the same thing. We were very strong in martial arts because of who we got. Tokyo Rose, Madam Taguri from Taguri Imports up on Belmont.
I remember we used to buy stuff for the Heartland General Store there.
Yeah. Well, she
was the one that talked to the U.S. troops, trying to get them to give in.
Well, she was forced into that role because she was an American. You know, she was an American. She was just Japanese American, and she had to go take care of her grandmother because nobody else could do it. And the war started, and they arrested her. They arrested her, put her in a camp, and then forced her to do that every day. But it wasn't just her. There was about 10 or 12 Tokyo Roses because it was a 24-hour-a-day job.
Yeah.
But she was the only one who admitted to doing it. And she took the rap for everybody. They scapegoated her. They had an enemy. You know how this stuff goes here. They identify enemy, then they persecute, to run their picture all over the place. Oh, there's this evil person. And that's why was it Jimmy Carter or was it Clinton who pardoned her?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so we used to buy our like martial arts supplies. We used to buy our martial arts supplies from her. She was one of the only places where you could get like a real Kodokan judo gi, And plus she had this, she had a little tea room in the back, and all these Japanese candies and things, and all of these trinkets and these, she just imported lots of stuff. And John Keehan, Count Dante, is the one who told us that's where you go to buy your karate and your judo outfits. But karate wasn't popular in the 50s. Karate didn't get popular until television. because judo was the thing. I mean, from early 1900, judo was the #1 or Asian martial arts in the country. Karate came about after World War II, after a lot of soldiers had come through Okinawa. Some of them stayed and they started to study striking arts. And they started to put striking arts into the movies. And Count Dante was, he started in boxing with, my God, what's the guy's name? Johnny Coolin. He was a bantamweight boxer. Had a boxing gym on 63rd, right off University. You could see it from the L, right? You would pass there, and then as you went downtown, if you took the right train, you would go all the way around the loop. And when you came back up Van Buren, you would see the Jiu-Jitsu Institute, and you would look inside, and it would be all this big mat and all these guys practicing judo, And that's where a lot of us, how we got introduced to like both boxing and judo was riding on that train, But the movies, TV shows, the Saint, Secret Agent Man from U.N.C.L.E., even before James Bond, the Saint was a British TV show was using striking martial arts. We had.
So how far along are you on in your Count Dante movie?
Well,
we've been talking about it for a couple of years.
Well, you know what? These guys at Duality Entertainment, they want to do the Tiger King Count Dante. I want to do the social history of martial arts Count Dante. Yeah. They want to go back and talk to all the ratchet characters involved in martial arts, and especially the people who tried to stop me from making the film, people in Fall River, Massachusetts, who took me to federal court, only to end up owing me $15,000.
I hope you got it.
Anyhow, nope. I didn't want it because these guys didn't have the money. It meant I had to get it from them $250 a month. Who wants to collect from people who don't want to pay?
Yeah, you can work it out. Let me ask you, you mentioned your own films. Why don't you tell people, we're going to run out of time. Yeah. My only thing about judo is I remember when I was playing football at Lake Forest, I was in the weight room and there was a guy in there doing judo stuff. And I said, does this work? He kicked my ass. Little guy. Uh-huh. So I have a lot of respect for that. But Floyd, before we check out, why don't you tell us about the films you've already made and maybe how people can see them and anything else you want to share?
Well, I was a producer on a film called Daughters of the Dust, if people haven't seen it. Daughters of the Dust was made in 1992, and it became, last year was chosen by Sight and Sound magazine, the British Film Institute's popular organ, as one of the best films of the past 100 years. It was like number 40 or something like that, one of the best films of the last 100 years. I worked on documentaries like The World and Nat King Cole, which was an American masterpiece. I worked on The March with John Acumpra, which was about the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. I worked on a thing called Last Angel of History, about Black science fiction before people started talking about Afrofuturism. I've as a result of that, I have a festival. I have a competition. I have an annual Afrofuturism film competition that's going into its 7th year this year, and we show the winning films at Chicago filmmakers.
How do people find that site?
Film Freeway, filmfreeway.com. That's where you enter. Yeah. And what else am I doing? And I worked on a film with Melik Shabazz, who recently. Oh no, St. Clair Bourne. I worked with St. Clair Bourne, a documentary filmmaker, on a thing called Big City Blues, about blues in Chicago. That's one of my favorite short films. You got some of the last of the blues greats in that short film.
Well, Floyd Webb, if you send me a list of things that people should watch. Okay. We'll try and put it up along with this for the people who view.
One thing they should watch right now, Surrounded on Prime. It's starring Letitia. Oh my God, I can't remember her name. The woman who's in Black Panther. It's a Western. It's about a Black woman who masquerades as a man and goes off and joins the Buffalo Soldiers. she gets out of the Buffalo Soldiers and she's headed west to claim some land that she's acquired through her service in the military. And it's about how she gets distracted and waylaid on the way and ends up losing the land. Another film about Black people acquiring
land
and losing land. You know, this
and
is a
Black people aren't the only people. We're
right.
learning now about Native Americans losing their land.
Oh, please don't. Yeah, let's not forget that. And it's a really interesting film. It's a low budget. It's really nicely done. I was surprised watching it the other night. I woke up, I couldn't sleep. I figured it was going to put me to sleep, but it kept me awake. You know?
Well, I'm tired of watching sports, so I'm going to look at some of these films. And I want to thank you very much for coming on live from the Heartland. Anytime you want to come on, you got something you want to share, we're here for you.
Okay. All right, man.
Thanks. Right on, brother.